Hello and welcome to this Nest Insight presentation on automatic enrolment, Nest and some findings from our research paper, Retirement Saving in the UK. My name is Notley and I am the Senior Analyst within Nest Insight and the main author of the Retirement Saving in the UK research. Retirement Saving in the UK follows on from Nest Insight's previous research series, How the UK Saves, which was published in conjunction with Vanguard. The main aim of the research is to present the findings derived from Nest's administrative data covering topics such as employers, enrolments, members and contributions. The legislative foundations for automatic enrolment can be traced back to the Pensions Act 2008. It was set that automatic enrolment would commence from October 2012, with employers called to duties in a staged approach based upon their size. The very largest employers staged first, and each month progressively smaller employers were staged in. The staging process was complete by February 2018, and since that time, any new employer employing an individual under a contract of employment must provide them with a pension immediately. Only workers aged between 22 and the state pension age, which is currently 66 in the United Kingdom, and who earn in excess of £10,000 per annum are eligible for automatic enrolment. Individuals outside this threshold are able to opt into their employer's pension scheme, and in certain circumstances, the employer must pay contributions to these individuals as well. As well as the staged approach in employers starting auto-enrolment, contributions were also phased in. From the start of the automatic enrolment programme, contribution rates were set low at only 2% total contribution, of which at least 1% had to come from the employer. In April 2018, contributions were phased upwards to a total of 5%, of which 2% had to come from the employer. And finally, in April 2019, contributions were phased up once again to their current level of 8%, of which 3% must come from the employer. Members who are eligible can claim tax relief on their contributions. So for the vast majority of Nest members, their personal contribution under the legislative minimum rates is 4%, with the additional 1% coming in the form of tax relief. In addition to the basic requirements stipulated by auto-enrolment policy, members with Nest are able to contribute more to their pension pots directly from their own bank account. And they're also able to transfer their funds from other pension providers into Nest, as well as transferring their Nest assets out to another provider. All individuals who are automatically enrolled have the option to opt out of pension saving, but can only do so within 1 month of being enrolled. This is known as the opt-out window. All members also have the ability to stop contributing at any time by either informing their employer they no longer wish to contribute, or by using the function to stop contributions via their Nest online account. Employees usually cannot access their savings until age 55, where, under the freedom of choice, they are able to take their accumulated assets in whole or part. The staged approach used to allocate employers to the legal requirement to provide pensions for their employees meant that initially volumes of employers joining Nest was very low. By the end of the financial year 2015-16, some 3.5 years into the policy, only around 86,000 employers had joined Nest. But within the next 2 years, this had increased over 7-fold. So by the end of staging, over 630,000 employers had joined Nest. As of September the 30th, 2020, 916,000 employers had registered with Nest, and of these, 827,000 were active at the time. Due to the nature of the UK employer landscape, volumes are dominated by small and micro-sized businesses. 98% of Nest employers have fewer than 50 employees. However, more than half of Nest members work for mid-size or large employers. Although less than 1% of Nest employer landscape have more than 250 employees, around 1 in 3 Nest members work for an employer of this size. As at the 30th of September 2020, around 13.7 million enrolments had been made into Nest. It should be noted here that this is a count of enrolment events, not of people. We know that many individuals have been enrolled more than once, either by different employers or by the same employer at a subsequent time. This also includes all individuals who subsequently opted out, who are therefore not considered to be Nest members. If we make the adjustments for multiple enrollees and opt-outs, we find that almost 9.5 million unique Nest members at the end of September 2020. This is roughly equivalent to around 1 in every 3 employees in the UK labour market. Prior to the start of automatic enrolment, Nest's aim was to ensure all eligible workers were able to access pension saving. It was known that the unpensioned were likely to be low to moderate earners and more likely to be younger. If we look at Nest membership today, we see that membership skews towards younger, moderately paid workers, precisely fitting the profile Nest was expected to serve. Nearly half of members are aged under 35, and more than half have an annual income of less than £20,000. Nest members tend to move jobs more often than the average across the labour market. As at the 30th of September 2020, just over half of Nest members were not in the active employment with the employer who enrolled them, and therefore Nest had around 4.4 million active members at the time. Since the onset of the automatic enrolment policy, one of the surprising findings has been how low opt-out rates have been. Auto-enrolment was predicated on inertia and the hope that people would simply accept the deductions from their salaries for pension saving, but the observed rates are much lower than expected. Since inception, around 8% of all enrolments made into Nest have resulted in an opt-out. There are some important trends to observe, however. Opt-out rates are highest for older workers, those at smaller employers, and they are marginally higher for females. Younger workers are more likely to give affordability as the main reason for opting out, whereas older workers say they have other sources of income for retirement. Although legislative minimum contribution rates have now reached the 8% total, we find that a fairly significant proportion of Nest employers actually contribute more than this. Around 20% of employers have a combined contribution percentage greater than 8%. And within this, we find that mid-size and larger employers are more likely to contribute over the minimum rate. Average contributions in monetary terms vary depending on how often the member contributes. Across the whole year, we determine an individual to be a continuous contributor if they have at least one contribution in every month of the year. If they are below this frequency, we call them a partial contributor. For all members, mean total contributions to March 2020 was £917, but for members who contributed in each of the 12 months of the preceding year, this rose to £1,448. There are some clear demographic differences observed. Males contribute around 40% more than females on average. This is due to males having large average salaries overall. Age also has a strong effect on contribution levels. The under 35s make significantly lower contributions than the over 35s. We also observe that employees at smaller firms are more likely to have higher than average contributions, which is perhaps surprising given that firms of this size are less likely to contribute over the legislative minimum contribution rates. We observe that on average, employees at smaller micro firms tend to be older, and therefore this higher than average contribution level is more likely to be driven by the characteristics of the employees rather than the firm. With the phasing of contributions now complete, pot balances are rapidly increasing. They are, however, when taken in context of longer, more established pension schemes, relatively small. As at the 31st of March 2020, for all Nest members with a positive pot balance, the mean balance was £1,106 and the median £477. About half of Nest members had less than £500 in assets, and only 3% had assets of £5,000 or more. Average pot balances increase significantly with age. Those aged 45 and over have average balances around 2.5 times the average balance of those aged under 25. During the timeframe covered by the report, the COVID-19 pandemic resulted in a number of restrictions and national lockdowns, which had a significant impact on the UK economy and the labour market. In both cases, many commentators predicted there would be a big drop in the number of people saving for retirement. Yet to date, the evidence from Nest suggests otherwise. As the second and final planned increase in minimum automatic enrolment contributions took place, opt-out rates increased marginally to 11% in the first 6 months of the 2020-21 fiscal year. It should be noted that the rate of enrolment slowed considerably during this period. As the job retention scheme held up jobs across the economy, it also prevented significant falls in the rate of pension saving. There were no significant changes in average contribution levels between April 20 and September 20. The story is one of continuity. The majority of members have continued to save, and saving levels have remained consistent. Also, as of the 30th September 2020, all NEST funds were performing above their benchmarks, and some significantly so. We'll be looking more deeply into the impact of the pandemic on NEST members in our series of COVID-19 analysis blogs. We're really looking forward to being able to share our future learnings with you, so please check the NEST Insight website or get in touch with us for more information. Thank you.